Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Saraswatyai Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Om Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratan Karunamayam. Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahmavidvaram. Sadgurum Brahmavidvaram. Om Sada Shiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Srutismriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Pada Shankaram Lokashankaram. Om Namah Shri Shankarananda Guru Padambujanmane Savila Samaha Moha Grahak Grasaika Karmane. Yesterday we were seeing what are the common features between Kutastha and Chidabhasa. And what is Chidabhasa? We saw it is called Ishad Bhasanam. Chidabhasa is the partial manifestation. Abhasa means what? A little reflection, a partial manifestation. A Pratibimba also is like that. Bimba Lakshana Heenasan Bimbavat Bhasate Sahi. So what are the Bimba Lakshana? The original has certain qualities, certain features. All those features are not there in the Chidabhasa. If all those features are there in Chidabhasa, then why do we call it Chidabhasa? Original only. It becomes original only. So, having said this, what are the things? Sasangatva vikarabhyam, vikarabhyam, bimbalakshana heenata, spurthi rupatva medasya, bimbavat bhasanam viduhu. Chidabhasa is described as what? Sasangatva. We saw yesterday, only when there is mind. Chidabhasa being a reflection, it is always associated with the mind or antakarana or vritti, buddhi. It is always associated with it. It is never separate. Sasanga, Chidabhasa. And it has got its own attachments. Anyway, vikaribhyam, constantly changing. So, this is the nature of Chidabhasa. And it is like a pure consciousness, Kutastha, because it has got the capacity to illumine the object. So whenever there is a vritti, Chidabhasa is always with vritti in the mind. In the mind, Chidabhasa is always with the vritti or in the mind, with the mind. And it is subjected to change, variable, because one Chidabhasa, one thought, second thought, third thought, Chidabhasa changes. General Chidabhasa is remained intact in waking plane. Okay. And the Kutastha is able to illumine the object. Sorry, Chidabhasa is able to illumine like the Kutastha. Like Kutastha can illumine, Chidabhasa also can illumine the object. So this is basically we saw yesterday difference between Chidabhasa and Kutastha. Okay. Now we should start with 34th verse. 34th verse. So Purvapakshi is asking so many questions now. This will continue. Chidabhasa Vichara. Chidabhasa Vada will continue because Purvapakshi is holding on to Pratibimba Vada. Sorry, Avachedavada. Purvapakshi is holding on to the concept of Avachedavada. Vidyaranya Muni is proving the importance and necessity and Chidabhasa, Abhasavada. This will continue almost till the end of the chapter. 68 verses tak ye chalta rahega. Now he asks a different question, different objection he raises in 34th verse. What is that? Nahi dhi bhava bhavitvat abhasosti dhiya prathak iti ched alpamevoktam dhirapyevam swadehataha. See, if one argues, I'll just tell the sloka meaning, then we can go into the. He says, Dhi bhava bhavitvat abhasaha na asti dhiya prathak. Since Chidabhasa is always dependent on the intellect, and the intellect means vritti here, buddhi vritti, in that it is reflected. See, the thought will be now, can Chidabhasa exist independent of vritti? The Purvapakshi says, since Chidabhasa can, say for example, since reflection can exist always in association with the mirror. Okay, that example only to make you understand. But here as we go ahead, we can study many things. So he says, Dhi bhava bhavitvat, because intellect, Chidabhasa depends upon intellect for its existence. So Chidabhasa cannot exist separate from intellect. That is the doubt. Right? Dhi bhava bhavitvat abhasaha dhiya prathak nahi asti. I hope you got the point. Because whenever there is a vritti, Chidabhasa forms. Can Chidabhasa form? Can there be reflection without a vritti? No. So he says, Chidabhasa cannot exist. Vidyaranya Muni only raising a doubt with Purvapakshi, as a Purvapakshi. Avachedavadi, he is supporting Avachedavada, the conditioning consciousness. Or anybody who objects this particular prakriya, abhasa prakriya, he can raise a doubt. How can Chidabhasa cannot exist independent of the thought? The second line is answer given by Vidyaranya Muni. Iti chet up to here, Purvapakshi, if it is argued, if it is said so, what will you answer? Vidyaranya Muni answer, Alpameva Uktam. You are saying only very little, half only you are telling. और भी आगे बढ़ो. क्या बढ़ना है? धीरपि एवं स्वदेहतः. He says, intellect also, mind and intellect means mind I can use. Mind cannot exist independent of the physical body. Please slowly understand. Why are you saying Chidabhasa cannot exist without intellect? But I can also say, even mind, Chidabhasa cannot exist without intellect. Okay, but intellect or mind itself cannot exist without the body. That's a doubt. That's the answer given by Vidyaranya. Why do you say stop there, saying that Chidabhasa is not independent, it is depending on intellect, it cannot exist without intellect. I can go further and say even the mind cannot exist without the body. So what the Purvapakshi says? Purvapakshi says, I'm again repeating, Chidabhasa is never experienced separated from the mind. It can't have existence. It is like saying, can there be a reflection without a mirror? Reflection is always associated with the mirror. So it is Chidabhasa doesn't exist independent of the mind. So when mind is manifest, Chidabhasa is there. When mind is unmanifest in deep sleep state, Chidabhasa doesn't exist. Though we say we have studied in 6 chapters, small Antakkana Vritti remains there. That subject is there. But ultimately it is not proved on very waking point of view. Therefore we say, the Purvapakshi says, Acharya says, this is the thing. Why do you stop? Even the mind cannot exist without the body, he says further. But Purvapakshi says that, sir, Chidabhasa cannot exist without mind. So Chidabhasa is not experienced independently. Therefore, my contention is, Purvapakshi says to Vidyaranya Muni, sir, why do you introduce Chidabhasa as an independent entity? Because it is always associated with the mind, it has not got any independence. It is not existing independent of the mind. So he says, what is the proof that it is existing independent of mind? No proof at all. So we never experience Chidabhasa alone, independently, independent of mind, we don't experience. So Dhi Bhava Bhavitvat, meaning Chidabhasa exists only when the mind exists. Chidabhasa doesn't exist when mind doesn't exist. That is what Purvapakshi says. So it has not got its own existence. So Purvapakshi says, you need not talk about Chidabhasa coming from Atma giving it Chidabhasa through all that. We did not talk because it has not got any independent existence. I hope you understood the question. Now the answer is given by Acharya. If such a question is asked by a Purvapakshi, the reply is, now look here. Why are you denying the existence of Chidabhasa, independent existence, separate existence of Chidabhasa, not in connection with the mind, but separately Chidabhasa? Why are you denying the existence of Chidabhasa? What is your logic? Because it is never experienced separately. Vijayanamuni says to Purvapakshi. Therefore, you deny. So, since I cannot experience Chidabhasa independently, it cannot exist separately. Now, Vijayanamuni says, if that is your logic, because I can't experience Chidabhasa independent of mind, I hope you are catching the point. Because whenever there is a vritti, the mind, then only Chidabhasa can form. Can the reflection be independent of the thought, medium, reflecting medium? It's not possible. But then we'll see what is the truth. So Vijayanamuni says, in that case, what is the logic? Because it is not experienced independently, it doesn't exist. So whatever is not experienced independently, then it can't exist according to your logic. So now, nobody, Vijayanamuni says, nobody has experienced the mind, buddhi or mind, separate from the body. Nobody has experienced separately the mind alone apart from the body. So whether it is in our mind or your mind, whatever mind, the mind is experienced only when there is a physical body. So body is burnt, somebody died. Can we see the mind independent of body? So because what scientists say, scientists equate the brain with the mind, but mind is different from brain. So scientists also say once the body is burnt or cremated or buried, there is no proof of existence of the mind and subtle body, etc. after death. So they ask, what is the proof that soul is existing, that the body, after the physical body, that the mind is existing independent of the body? What is the proof? It doesn't exist. So we don't see after death somebody's mind traveling from one loka to other loka. Chidavasa, we don't see Chidavasa traveling. So we don't have, in this world, we don't have any solid proof to say that the mind exists even after the death of the body. So mind cannot exist without the body. So this is a perspective from onlookers. So we don't see the mind independent of mind. Only body is there, mind is there. Mind is noticed. If body is not there, mind is not noticed. So this is the answer given by Vidyaranya Muni. What does Purvapaksha says? Chidabhasa cannot exist independently. It is associated with the mind only. Therefore, it has no existence independent of mind. Further, you take it, Vidyaranya Muni says, if that is the case, mind also cannot exist independent of the body. Because mind is not seen, mind is not proved, it has not got any proof. So do you agree to that? That the mind doesn't exist without the body? But we will not agree. Purvapakshi won't agree, no? For that thought. He says mind is there, mind will be there after the death also. Just because you are not seeing it, just because you cannot prove the existence of the mind, can we say that the mind doesn't exist? इसका प्रमाण क्या है? मरने के बाद भी मन का अस्तित्व जारी रहता है, इसका प्रमाण क्या है? हम तो देख नहीं सकते हैं, सुन नहीं सकते. So do you agree? That's what answer is answered by Vidyaranya Muni to the Purvapakshi. For that, he will say, he will object. Purvapakshi says, no, how can you say that way? Mind exists. Without the body also mind exists. Ultimately, what we will prove, that just as mind exists without the body, mysteriously, Chidabhasa can exist without the buddhi. That is a mystery. That will come. We'll come to that particular point later. So the Purvapakshi says, how can you say that? Dehe murtepi buddhischet shastradasti tatha sati buddheranyaschidabhasaha praveshashrutishrutaha. Objection. Purvapakshi says, objection means he says, no, how can you say that the mind doesn't exist without the body? Mind exists without the body also. Praman kya hai? Scripture, Shastra Praman. Dehe murte api. Even though the body is dead. Buddhischet shastrad asti. Does buddhi exist? Yes, it exists. Who says? Scriptures declare that the buddhi, sukshma sharira, exists even after the death of the physical body. So how can you say that way? So I accept. Rupaksha says, I accept the survival of the mind and its own satta even after the body is destroyed. I will not say what you said, that you said that mind cannot exist without the body. I will not agree with you, O Vidyaranya Muni. I very much accept the existence of the mind even after the destruction of the physical body. I accept the existence of mind after death. How? As per the statement of the scriptures. So he says, I have faith, Shastra Pramana is there. So that's what he says, no? Shastrad asti. So Shastra says that mind exists without the body also. Brain is destroyed, but the mind exists. Brain is hardware, mind is software. It is always there. It's subtle body. As long as we have not transcended the limitations of this BMI, still the mind is there. Jiva is, as long as we are jivas, subtle body is there, mind is there, papa punya karmas are there, all that is there. Punya papa vasanas are there, and without all this kit, the jiva travels from one loka to other loka. So I have not experienced it right now. But after death, we all experience the existence of mind without the physical body. After the physical body dropped also, oh, I know I exist. My mind is there, my papa is there, punya karma is there, thoughts are there, anxiety, worry, attachment, all those things are there. Sometimes I get attached to my wife and children, or husband and children, or ashram and chela or gurus. Physically, if they are available, I get attached to them. But thoughts I know physical body. So even though I have not experienced it right now, the separate existence of the mind without the physical body, I accept the existence of mind based on these scriptural statements. Who says? Purvapaksha. How? Because Shastra is Pramana, he says. So Purvapaksha, for me, Shastra is Pramana, source of knowledge. So once the Shastra says that you exist, that's it. I don't know, I not measured, I don't know whether I never seen, but Shastra Pramana is. If Vidyarmani says, if you have a proof that the mind can exist without the body, Vidyarmani says, I have also Shastra Pramana to say that Chidabhasa is different from the mind. Chidabhasa is not a part of the mind. It can exist independent of mind. This is the, when we heard first time, in Sandipani, अभी भी कच्चे हैं हम, तभी भी कच्चे थे और ज्यादा कच्चा. हमको समझ इतना सुनने के बाद suddenly Chidabhasa exists without the mind also. How? It is a mystery. अभी आगे देखेंगे. इसका प्रमाण भी है, श्रुति प्रमाण है. They are called pravesha shrutishu. Pravesha shruti means how Atman entered into the bodies. So there are Shruti Pramana, Shruti speak about, Upanishad spoke about it. So Vijayaraman says, as per the knowledge that I have gained, I have come to know. What is that? Mind has not have its own consciousness. Mind is Jada Padartha. Mind has not got its own consciousness. Mind is not consciousness. Mind is matter. But that matter starts thinking, moving, active. How? Because of the borrowed consciousness. It has borrowed consciousness from Kutastha permanently. So, if you have Shastra Pramana to say that the mind exists without the body, I also have Shastra Pramana to say Chidabhasa exists without the mind also. So, what is the meaning? Chidabhasa is different from the mind. It is not integral part or intrinsic nature of the mind. Chidabhasa is consciousness, reflected consciousness. Mind is active. Right now, my mind is active. Why? Because of the reflection of the Kutastha Chaitanya. Otherwise, mind is matter only. Think. So, mind does not have its own consciousness. It is by itself, it is inert. So, because the touch of consciousness, they started becoming active. Thoughts become active. Gurudev says, because of the touch of consciousness, the thought starts activated thoughts. How can you say mind has not got intrinsic, consciousness? Intrinsic means swatah siddha. Mind by itself is not conscious. The consciousness in the mind is a borrowed consciousness. How can you say? Because the mind is also changing. And whatever is subjected to change, it is nothing but padartha. It is only matter. And what is matter? Jadam. Therefore, what is antakarana? It is subjected to change, insentient, like any other object. So, therefore, mind being the subjected to change, inert, prakriti, padartha, it is matter. How can consciousness belong to that matter? Consciousness cannot be belonging to the matter. Because consciousness is different. So, therefore, consciousness cannot belong to the mind. Therefore, consciousness is not the intrinsic nature of the mind. Intrinsic nature of the mind is jada, insentient. So, consciousness in the mind cannot be belonging to the mind. Then whom does it belong to? Something else, Kutastha Chaitanya. It has been borrowed from Atma. Which Atma? Maya Upadi Visishta Chaitanya Atma. Maya Sahita Atma. That is Ishvaraha. Because Shuddha Brahma is not no sankalpa, nothing. He is Anishkriya. Actionless. Therefore, mind is not active because of consciousness. That consciousness, is it intrinsic nature, swabhava of the mind? No. What is above the mind? Jadam. Then what is consciousness? Belonging to Atma, not to the mind. Okay. So, for Purapakshi, what is Suti Pramana? He said no. He has got Suti Pramana. Purapakshi says. For what? To say that the Chidabhasa is always associated with the intellect, with the mind. Chidabhasa doesn't exist without the mind. He has Pramana from Brodharika Upanishad, Sharirika Brahmana. In that, Savijnano Bhavati. Savijnanamevan. That mantra, that mantra is there. There is the mind leaves the body. Shruti Vakya is there. Mind leaves the body. Pramana is there. Existence of the mind without the body. Pramana. Burudharaka Upanishad. Mind leaves the body and goes to some other body. Manas sashtani indriyani prakritisthani karshati shariram yadavapnoti yachapyutkramati. Why there Bhagavan Krishna said in Gita that while Jiva is leaving, he will take away all his vasanas and indriyas and pack them and go with subtle body. He goes Pramana, Gita Pramana, and he enters into another body and opens his shop. So all these Shruti, Burudharaka Upanishad and also Taittiriya Upanishad and also 15th chapter of Gita, they all spoke about what? Existence of the mind, that mind can survive even after leaving the body. So this is the Purapakshi quotations, that mind exists without the body. So what does Purapakshi say? He says, Chidabhasa is not independent of mind. Vijayamani says, why don't you go further and tell mind also is not independent of the body? Because if body is not there, mind cannot exist. Because nobody can prove it. Purapakshi says, no, we have got a pramana, Shastra pramana is there for that, to say that the mind exists even without the body. So Vijayarana says, now, if you have Shastra pramana, I also have Shastra pramana. I also have Shastra pramana. Not only you. Not only you, I also have Shastra pramana. That's called Pravesha Shrutishu. You see, there is no Prave, second line. Buddher Anyas Chidabhasaha. Buddhehe Anyaha. Chidabhasa is other than the intellect. Where it is said, Shrutaha, we have heard. Where? Pravesha Shrutishu. They are called Pravesha Shruti. Shruti which speaks about the entry of Atman into the body. There we saw Chidabhasa is separate from intellect. Anupravesha Shruti. So all those Vedic statements, they spoke about the entry of Atman into the body. No, see, we say Pravesha Shrutishu, how Atma enters the body. Now speak about what is Atma. Atma is all pervading. Then what is the question of entry of Atma when Atma is all pervading? So then what is the meaning of entry of Atma into the body? So we cannot speak about all pervading Atma entered into the body because Atman is all pervading. It is already there. There is no place where it is not. Then how do we speak about entry of Atma into the body? Therefore, when Upanishad is speaking about the entry of Atma into the body, Upanishad is not speaking about Shuddha Atma, it is speaking about only Chidabhasa. Okay. Now again question comes, no? How can Chidabhasa exist without the mind and etc., without intellect? That's what we will see now, discover. So therefore, Upanishad talks about the entry. It is talking about Chidabhasa. Atma reflection forming in the mind alone can be called as entry. Then how that entry comes? So in Taittiriya Upanishad, Burudharaka Upanishad, Anupravesha is there. Adi Shankaracharya's comment is very huge. So he says, Taittiriya Upanishad, he brings Taittiriya Upanishad. In the next verse, he speaks about Taittiriya Upanishad, Vijayarana Muni, to prove that the how did Atma entered into the bodies? And when did he enter? Here we will prove the Atma, the Chidabhasa, Atma entering as Chidabhasa is not associated with the mind. What is the proof? We will see now in 36th sloka. He says, Dhiyuktasya praveshaschet aitareye diya prathak Atma pravesham sankalpya pravishta iti giyate. Aitareya Upanishad is brought. So what the Purvapakshi says, in Aitareya Upanishad, entry was spoken. Objection. Dhiyuktasya praveshaschet. Purvapakshi says, Bhai, how can the Atma enter into the body? The Atma is all pervading, understood. Then how did he enter the body? Purvapakshi says, here entry means Dhiyuktasya, meaning along with the intellect, Chidabhasa. When the intellect is Chidabhasa form, so Chidabhasa and intellect, the reflecting medium and the reflection, together entered into the bodies. Together they entered into the body. Who says? Aitareya Upanishad says. We have studied Aitareya in 2006 or 7, I don't remember. Or maybe 8 or 9, I don't know. In Noida only. Listen carefully now. So since all pervading Atma cannot enter the body, because it's already there, so as Purvapakshi says, that's what I have been telling you. Dhiyuktasya praveshaschet. If I say the Chidabhasa and the intellect, together they enter into the body. That is what I wanted to say. Otherwise, how can Atma reflection be formed? So teacher says, no. Aitareye diya prathak. In Aitareya Upanishad, it is said that the Atma enters into the body by sankalpa, by will, without buddhi, diya prathak. There is no buddhi there. Atma enters into that. So here Purvapakshi, another objection is raised. Hair splitting it is called. No, he says, no, listen, what he says. In Aitareya Upanishad, how Atma entered into the bodies, it was mentioned. How Atma entered into the subtle body, the mind, it was not talked about there. So Atma entry into the body is with buddhi, meaning Chidabhasa with buddhi, that alone enters. Because Upanishad mantra says it entered into the bodies, not the mind. Atma entered the mind, it was not said. Atma entered the bodies. So Atma entering the body is mentioned there. So when we are talking about the Atma entering into the physical body, that means what? It means mind carrying the reflection of Chit as Chidabhasa entering into the body along with Atma. Which Atma? Maya Sahita Atma or Chidabhasa. It is entering into that. So if Shruti is Mata is talking about Atma entering into the mind, then you can say Atma enters the mind in the form of Chidabhasa. Chidabhasa separated from mind, then you can talk about it. Then you can say Chidabhasa is separate from mind and all that. But here, mind Atma entering the physical body. So if Atma is entering the mind, then you can talk about Chidabhasa separate from the mind. Why? Atma cannot enter the mind. No, why? Suddha Atma is all pervading. So there also entry means what? Chidabhasa only. So Atma entered into the mind when you talk. That means Atman, all pervading Atma we are not talking about. So Atma entered into as Chidabhasa only into the mind. As Chidabhasa entered into the mind means what? Chidabhasa is different from the mind. Then I will agree. If the Upanishad says Atma entered into the mind, but Upanishad says Atma entered into the body. So therefore, mind, intellect, buddhi with the Chidabhasa entered the body. Who says? Dhi yuktasya, Purapakshi says. So I am not agreeing to your principle that intellect is different, Chidabhasa is different from buddhi. I will not agree. So Atma along with the mind has made an entry into the body. So this is Purapakshi Siddhanta. He is arguing like that. Vijayamuni says, no, it is wrong. Because you are quoting Taittiriya Upanishad and Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. There only Atma entry is talked about. Atma entry is talked, Atma entered. But there it was not specifically mentioned whether in the mind and then the body or directly into the body or generally into the creation or nothing. That's all details are not given. But in Aitreya Upanishad, details are given very clearly that Atma enters Sukshma Sharira, which means what? Atma enters mind. That means what? Atma entering the mind as Chidabhasa. That means what? Chidabhasa is different from the mind. That means what? Mysteriously Chidabhasa can exist without the mind. So if the Atma is to enter the mind, as said in Aitreya Upanishad, very clearly it is said, because Paramatma entered into all Sukshma Shariras. That I'll see later on, we'll see, come to the point. So you have to accept there is only Chidabhasa entry. So if Chidabhasa is entering the mind, that means the idea, what is the idea conveyed? Chidabhasa is not an intrinsic part of the mind, it is separate from the mind. Then only it can enter, no? Suddha Atma need not enter, it is all pervading. So it is already intrinsic means what? If it is intrinsic, you cannot talk about entry, it is always there. It is not intrinsic, therefore you are talking about entry. Shuddha Atma cannot enter because it is all pervading. Entry means what? The mind is entered, the mind means what? I am different, the Chidabhasa is different from the mind. So Chidabhasa can exist independent of the mind. So in Aitreya Upanishad, in 2 mantras it is said. So that summarizes, Vijayamuni summarizes these 2 mantras of Aitreya Upanishad. 1.3.11, 1.3.12 mantras. First Adhyaya, 3rd section and 11th sloka mantra and 12th mantra. Therefore, it says mantra said, Pravesham Sankalpya. So Atma there, Aham ekam bahusyam praja yetiyam, one, let me become many. It's Sankalpa, he visualized. Here at Aitreya Upanishad, Sankalpa he made. So the creator, the Atma, Maya Sahita Atma, the Paramatma Pravesha, he first made Sankalpya. Sankalpa he made. Before made what he made? Sankalpa for creation. He created all beings. So Kamayata Bahusyam Prajayeti satapo tapyata, satapastaptva, idagam sarvamasrujata, edidim kincha, satchachancha bhavatu. All the things he created. All pairs of opposites, all animal bodies, all sukshma shariras, we created. So Atma visualized, meaning Sankalpa, let me create, he thought, then he created all those things. So it is Dija Pruthak means what? He already created subtle bodies, already created mind, already created physical bodies. That's what all the bodies, subtle bodies are created. So Atma is not along with Buddhi. Because Buddhi is already created, Atma not entered into Buddhi. So Buddhi also a part of creation only. Atma is separate from that. So Atma is independent of Buddhi. That Atma which is independent of Buddhi, he thought of entry in the form of Chidabhasa. Therefore, Germany says, you should accept my thought. So Upanishad says, next mantra, Katam vidam sakshadeham madrute syaditi ranat vidarya murdhasi manam pravistas samsaratyayam. This is some words are taken from Aitriya Upanishad mantra only. I said 1.3.11, 1.3.12. Exact mantra is what? Sayikshata katam vidam madrute syaditi sayikshata katarena prapadyayati sayikshata yadi vacha abhyaviha yadi vacha abhivyahatam yadi pranena abhipranitam yadi chakshusha drushtam yadi srotrena srutam yadi tvacha sprushtam yadi manasa dhyatam yadyapanena abhyapanitam यदि शिष्णेन विसृष्टम अथ कोहमिति स एतमेव सीमानं विदार्य एतया द्वारा प्रापद्यत सैषा विद्रुतिर्नाम द्वास्तदेतन्नानन्दं तस्य त्रय आवासतास्त्रयः स्वप्ना अयमेवास्तः अयमेवास्तो अयमेवास्त इति. So this mantra is quoted here. So what did Sankalpa after creating all the bodies? How can food exist without me? Food is created, but there is no life in it. So he pondered, so Ikshata. Then through what path I should enter? How should I enter into them? All the creation, all the bodies are dead, all are dead, lying down. All the animals, all it is said, it's a poetic imagination. All of them are lying dead. There is no life in any of the creation. Like, a battery power is not there, doll cannot work. So it has to enter, for the doll to work, energy has to enter into the doll in the form of battery energy, isn't it? Similarly, the Narayana has to enter, Ishvara has to enter. So how should I enter? Through which path I should enter into you? He wondered. So if speaking is through speech, if breathing is through breath, if seeing is through the eyes, hearing is through the ears, if touching is through the skin, if thinking is through the mind, if breathing out is through the out breath, if emission is throughout the reproductive organs, then who am I? How to make them? So therefore, he entered into the creation. How? Simanam Vidarya, through Brahmarandra he entered. So therefore, it very clearly says the creation has been created, subtle bodies are created, mind is created, buddhi is created, antakarana created, all then only entered. That means what? He entered in a Siddhabhasa. That means what? It is not, Siddhabhasa is not associated with mind. It is separated from mind. See? So Seemanam Vidarya Murdhana Seemanam Pravishta Samsarati Ayam. Then he entered into the body. Chidabhasa, he entered. When he entered into the bodies, he became under delusion. He came under spell of delusion. He forgot himself. Who am I? Then he started behaving like a jiva, as a limited entity. He started wandering. He became a samsari. He said, how can mithya vastus even exist if I don't lend my existence? After creation, Lord thought, if I don't lend my existence, satta, how can all they become chetana? How should I enter into that? Then he created a hole. He decided, I will enter through the cranium, Brahmarandra. Because he did not enter through popular sense organs, Navarandra, he never entered. He chose Brahmarandra. It's called Shuklagati, you know, the Brahm Seemana Vidharya. Bhagavad Gita speaks, when you go leave the prana from here, you will go to Shuklagati, Urdhva Lokas. So after creating mind and intellect and also, therefore Chidabhasa is independent of mind. Then Chidabhasa has a choice after entering into the creation. He has a choice. Narayana. Choice what? Either to identify with the Brahman, claim the divinity, or claim myself as samsari and suffer. Therefore, what is proved now? The proved is that Chidabhasa is independent of the mind. Now, another question is asked by Purapakshi. Because when you talk about entry, it's Kriya, no? How can Nishkriya Atma have Kriya? So this we will take up in next series of our talks on Pañcadaśi, 8th chapter. Okay. So we'll conclude here today. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamadachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om Sadgurunath Maharaj Ki Jai. Thank you all. Hari Om.